They told me the old St. Mercy Hospital was just another crumbling building, a relic from the 1950s, shut down after funding cuts, but the locals whispered otherwise. They said patients still roam the halls long after death, nurses gliding silently past broken doors, and lights flickering even though the power was cut decades ago. I didn't believe any of it, not until the night. I decided to step inside. The entrance was chained, yet the lock had been broken long ago. As I pushed the door open, the stale air of decay and disinfectant rushed over me, as if the building had been waiting for me. The hospital swallowed sound. My footsteps didn't echo normally, they seemed to drag behind me. Like something unseen was walking in sync. Faded signs still pointed to pediatrics, surgery, and intensive care. Wheelchairs rusted in corners, and gurneys lined the walls as though patients had been rushed out. Mid-treatment, my flashlight caught a notice board with patient names and times scribbled in chalk. The date read 1973, the hair on my arms. Rose. It wasn't just an abandoned building, it was frozen, trapped in time, waiting for the next chapter of its story. I wandered into what had once been a patient's room. The bed was overturned, and the mattress had blackened with age. The wallpaper, peeled in long strips, curling like skin, on the wall. Someone had scrawled words in red paint. Or what I hoped was paint. Do not let them in. Suddenly, I heard the unmistakable squeak of rubber soles against linoleum. A nurse's shoes, but no one was there. My flashlight flickered, and for half a second, I swore I saw a shadow standing by the window staring back at me. Something pulled me toward pediatrics. The smell changed as I entered, a sickly, sweet odor, like rotting candy. The walls were covered in faded murals of smiling clowns and balloons, but the paint had warped into grotesque grins. Tiny hospital beds lined the room, their metal frames bent and rusted. One still had a stuffed bear on it, its glass eye cracked. Then a sound. The faint giggle of a child. My blood ran cold. The laughter echoed, distant and near at once, bouncing through the empty ward until it stopped. Cut off like someone had pressed mute. At the end of the hallway stood the hospital's old elevator. Its doors stuck halfway open. Locals warned never to touch it, saying it didn't lead where it should. Against all sense, I stepped closer. The moment I peered inside, I saw movement, a nurse's cap disappearing down into the shaft, as though she had just taken the ride down. But the cables had long since snapped. The elevator was nothing but an empty coffin. Then, the doors groaned and shut by themselves, sealing with a bang that echoed across the entire hospital. I stumbled into the records room. Folders were strewn across the floor, filled with patient charts. But these weren't ordinary files, they were disturbingly detailed. Each folder contained a photo of a patient, their eyes scratched out with something sharp. One file in particular caught my attention. The patient's name was my own, same spelling, same birthday. My chest tightened as I flipped through it. The last page had only one word scribbled across it in red ink: admitted tonight. The air grew heavier, pressing against me like invisible hands. The deeper I went, the colder it became. When I reached surgery, the lights flickered violently, though there was no power. Surgical tools lay scattered across rusted trays. The operating table sat in the center, straps still intact. My flashlight beam slid across the walls, and that's when I saw them. Handprints smeared in thick black stains, clawing toward the door as if someone had tried to escape. A loud metallic crash rang out behind me. I spun around. The tray had been knocked to the floor. But I wasn't alone. From the corner of the room, she appeared. A nurse dressed in pristine white, face hidden by a mask. She stood motionless, her head tilted unnaturally to the side, as if listening to something only she could hear. My throat went dry. "Hello?" I whispered. Slowly, she raised her hand and pointed at the operating table. My flashlight dimmed. I blinked once and she was suddenly gone. But on the table, the straps had been undone, waiting for me, as though someone expected me to lie down. I ran. My legs carried me back toward the entrance. But the hallways no longer matched the way I came. Doors led to different places now. Pediatrics connected to surgery. Surgery led back to record. The hospital had rearranged itself. I stumbled into a stairwell and descended, hoping for an exit. But the stairs spiraled endlessly downward, floor after floor. Each landing looked the same, yet darker, colder. Whispers grew louder, voices chanting in languages I didn't recognize. My flashlight went out completely. In the suffocating dark, something grabbed my wrist. When the light finally flickered back on, I was strapped to the operating table. Above me hung a rusted surgical lamp swinging slightly. Figures in nurse uniforms surrounded me, their faces hidden by masks, their hands gloved and trembling with excitement. The tallest one leaned close and whispered, "We've been waiting for you." "Patient." My own voice screamed, but it didn't come from my throat. It echoed from the walls, from every hallway, from the hospital itself. And then I realized I hadn't entered St. Mercy Hospital. I had been admitted forever.